Hello everybody, it's me, GhostCritic, and it's the start of a brand new week, which, if you don't already realise, Monday is the day that I pose a comic book related question for all you guys to answer in the comments section down below. I also pose me some comic book questions and I'll answer them in the next video. So be prepared once you've watched this video to not only answer my comic book question, but throw a question out to me. You'll get your name shouted out in the next video and I'll answer your comic book related questions, so don't forget. This week, my comic book question to you is, now at the moment DC have these two weekly ongoing series in the form of Batman Eternal and their Future's End storyline, and I believe they've got maybe one or two other titles in the works that we might see further down the line as a weekly series. But I thought we'd go the opposite end of the spectrum. And my question this week is, what is your favourite mini-series? Those titles that last maybe 3, 4, 5 or 6 issues long, and it tells its story in its entirety in those issues. So yeah, it can come from any publishing house. It doesn't have to just be from Marvel or DC. There's plenty other publishing houses out there that put out like one-shots or kind of mini-series for us comic book fans to collect. So that is your comic book question of the week. So last week I had a number of questions asked of me, and we're going to start with, thank you very much for giving me yet another question, always a pleasure to hear from you, Jess S, who asked, if they made Saga into a TV or movie, who do you see playing Alana, Marco and the Will? Or do you think it should be an animated movie? First off, I wouldn't like to see it, to be honest, as an animated movie, though I can understand that they would be able to do way more stuff with it than potentially a TV series especially could do. If there was a big enough budget behind it, I'm sure a movie version of Saga could be quite awesome. They could throw in tons of like CGI stuff, which I know is not everyone's a big fan of, but you know, with the right backing they could make it look absolutely awesome. So I would prefer either a TV series or a movie rather than an animated version. That's to begin with. So who do I think should play our kind of three, I say 2 main characters and maybe a peripheral in the Will? Now Alana was easy for me because as soon as I read the first issue of Saga, I saw this actress straight away, and I've always kind of seen her in this light. And for me, Alana will always be Angelina Jolie. I do think, you know, they're both very strong, independent women. They're pretty badass. Let's forget Tomb Raider. Move on quickly. Marco. This kind of took me a little while to think of who could play it. I know there's kind of a bit of an age difference here. But I mean, Angelina is still looking quite young for her age. But I thought Joseph Gordon-Levitt for Marco. Stick some kind of ram horns on this guy's head, and I think we're quite close to Marco. The Will was quite an easy one for me. I almost went the kind of Bruce Willis route. But I thought, no, he's probably a little bit too old now to play that role, so I went for Matthew McConaughey. So those are my 3 picks, my casting couch for a potential Saga series. Mr. Gretzky 9966 asked me, which is the one cartoon female you had a crush on or liked as a kid? I had to go back a bit. Yes, okay. So, Battle of the Planets, Princess, Thundercats, Chitara, and you may not, the American audiences might not know this character or even this cartoon, but if you go and Google it or YouTube search it, you'll be able to find out who I mean. But Will-O-the-Wisp, Evil Edna. Those are my 3 picks. Custom Bromstar asked me, did you have action figures as a kid? If so, what did you have? Now at first I thought, I don't think I really had a lot. Wasn't really into action figures when I was growing up, funnily enough. But then as I kind of thought, well actually I had an Action Man. I think you guys over, I don't know whether you had Action Man over in the US. I think it was more G.I. Joe and that kind of stuff, but it's the same kind of deal. It was like an army doll, basically. And I remember having kind of the tank for him. He had this kind of grappling hook. Unfortunately it didn't kind of shoot out of his hand or whatever. You had to kind of throw it up for him. It was a bit of string with a plastic hook on the end. Also, just briefly, I wasn't like totally into buying these, though I probably would have if I had more pocket money at the time. But I did have a number of Star Wars figures. They weren't like super kind of collectible, and back then, you know, you didn't know about keeping them in their packages, keeping them unopened and pristine. You just ripped them out and wanted to play with them. So I remember having, see, I don't really know the names of them now, and I did try and look, but I couldn't find their actual names. But I think one of them was an Imperial Guard. The one that was kind of, it's all red, it's got like this big mask on with a black bit of kind of red cape. I had the disguise Princess Leia that she uses at the start of Return of the Jedi, when she's in Jabba's palace or whatever. The disguise she used before she released Han Solo out of the carbonite. Also from Return of the Jedi, I think it was this kind of green guard. It was kind of really bulky, had kind of tusks and stuff. Lando Calrissian, also his disguise in Return of the Jedi in the same palace. God, I've forgotten their name and I've just said it. But yes, I must have been really into Return of the Jedi at the time, which is why all the figures kind of came from that movie. But yeah, those are mostly the toys that I can remember. Unfortunately, I don't have them now. They kind of disappeared, broke, got thrown away. Oh well. I have one more question. That is from Wednesday's Serial, and in his own kind of inimitable style, he asked me, can you read me a story? Well, Matt, I think I can do that for you, but we need a change of scenery. The Last Night of the World by Ray Bradbury. What would you do if you knew that this was the last night of the world? What would I do? You mean seriously? Yes, seriously. I don't know, I haven't thought. He poured some coffee. In the background the 2 girls were playing blocks on the parlour rug in the light of the green hurricane lamps. There was an easy, clean aroma of the brewed coffee in the evening air. Well, better start thinking about it, he said. You don't mean it. He nodded. A war? He shook his head. Not the hydrogen or atom bomb. No. Or drone warfare. None of those at all, he said, stirring his coffee slowly. But just, let's say, the closing of a book. I don't think I understand. No, nor do I really. It's just a feeling. Sometimes it frightens me, sometimes I'm not frightened at all, but at peace. He glanced in at the girls and their yellow hair shining in the lamplight. I didn't say anything to you. It first happened about 4 nights ago. What? A dream I had. I dreamed that it was all going to be over, and a voice said it was. Not any kind of voice I can remember, but a voice anyway, and it said things would stop here on Earth. I didn't think too much about it till the next day, and then I went to the office and I caught Sam looking out the window in the middle of the afternoon. And I said, "A penny for your thoughts, Stan." And he said, "I had a dream last night." And before he even told me the dream, I knew what it was. I could have told him, but he told me and I listened to him. It was the same dream? The same. I told Stan I dreamed it too. He didn't seem surprised. He relaxed, in fact. Then we started walking around the office for the hell of it. It wasn't planned. We didn't say, "Let's walk around." We just walked on our own, and everywhere we saw people looking at their desks or their hands or out windows. I talked to a few. So did Stan. And they'd all had dreamed. All of them. The same dream with no difference. Do you believe in it? Yes. I've never been more certain. And when will it stop? The world, I mean. Sometime during the night for us, and then as the night goes on around the world, that'll go too. It'll take 24 hours for it all to go. They sat a while, not touching their coffee. Then they lifted it slowly and drank, looking at each other. "Do we deserve this?" she said. "It's not a matter of deserving, it's just that things didn't work out. I noticed you didn't even argue about this. Why not?" "I guess I've a reason," she said. "The same one everyone at the office had?" She nodded slowly. "I didn't want to say anything. It happened last night, and the women on the block talked about it among themselves today. They dreamed. I thought it was only a coincidence." She picked up the evening paper. "There's nothing in the paper about it." "Everyone knows, so there's no need." He sat back in his chair, watching her. "Are you afraid?" "No. I always thought I would be, but I'm not. Where's that spirit called self-preservation they talk so much about?" "I don't know. You don't get too excited when you feel things are logical. This is logical. Nothing else but this could have happened from the way we've lived." "We haven't been too bad, have we?" "No, nor enormously good. I suppose that's the trouble. We haven't been very much of anything except us, while a big part of the world was busy being lots of quite awful things." The girls were laughing in the parlour. "I always thought people would be screaming in the streets at a time like this." "I guess not. You don't scream about the real thing." "Do you know, I won't miss anything but you and the girls. I never liked cities, or my work, or anything except you three. I won't miss a thing except perhaps the change in the weather, a glass of ice water when it's hot, and I might miss sleeping. How can we sit here and talk this way?" "'Cause there's nothing else to do." "That's it, of course. For if there were, we'd be doing it. I suppose this is the first time in the history of the world that everyone has known just what they were going to do during the night. I wonder what everyone else will be doing now, this evening, for the next few hours. Go to a show, listen to the radio, watch television, play cards, put the children to bed, go to bed themselves, like always. I guess in a way that's something to be proud of, like always." They sat a moment and then poured himself another coffee. "Why do you suppose it's tonight?" "Because. Why not some other night in the last century, or 5 centuries ago, or 10? Maybe it's because it was never October the 19th, 1969, ever before in history, and now it is, and that's it. Because this date means more than any other date ever meant. Because it's the year when things are as they are all over the world. And that's why it's the end. There are bombers on their schedules both ways across the ocean tonight. They'll never see land. That's part of the reason why." "Well," he said, getting up, "what shall it be? Wash the dishes?" They washed the dishes and stacked them away with special neatness. At 8:30 the girls were put to bed and kissed goodnight, and the little lights by their beds turned on and the door left open just a trifle. "I wonder," said the husband, coming from the bedroom and glancing back, standing there with his pipe for a moment. "What?" "If the door will be shut all the way, Or if it'll be left just a little ajar so some light comes in. I wonder if the children know. No, of course not. They sat and read the papers and talked and listened to some radio music, and then sat together by the fireplace watching the charcoal embers as the clock struck 10:30 and 11 and 11:30. They thought of all the other people in the world who had spent their evening each in their own special way. "Well," he said at last. He kissed his wife for a long time. "We've been good for each other anyway." "Do you want to cry?" he asked. "I don't think so." They moved through the house and turned out the lights and went into the bedroom and stood in the night cool darkness, undressing and pushing back the covers. "The sheets are so clean and nice." "I'm tired." "We're really tired." They got into bed and lay back. "Oh, just a moment," she said. He heard her get out of bed and go into the kitchen. A moment later she returned. "I left the water running in the sink," she said. Something about this was so very funny that he had to laugh. She laughed with him, knowing what it was that she had done that was funny. They stopped laughing at last and lay in their cool night beds, their hands clasped, their heads together. "Good night," he said after a moment. "Good night," she said. "Good night, Matt." Thank you to everyone who asked questions last week. Don't forget to post some questions to me as well. You'll get a shout out in next week's video and get your question answered. Thank you all for responding to my question of the week. Just remember, put it down in the comment section below. I love hearing all your answers. Until next week, goodbye.